Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So in today's video, as you can tell by the title, we will be talking about a monster winter storm. And yes, I have pretty much guaranteed certainty this thing will be occurring. All the models are supportive of a very, very powerful and almost unusual winter storm. The strongest one of the season by far, not just for the areas that will be impacted, just in terms of the scope of this thing and how many people can be impacted by potentially over a foot of snow is really stunning. And yes, it's multi-faced. We have the winter side of it, right? Just horrendous amounts of snow that could be falling. Horrendous because in some of these areas it could be crippling. Some of the ice that could be also horrendous, and also severe weather that could be occurring. So it's a lot of stuff to go over. I want to show you the different models and what they show, because a slight track difference in this scenario could mean a monster of a difference for, say, New York City, Philadelphia, or further inland, Detroit, Indianapolis, Columbus, Ohio, Louisville, Kentucky, Tennessee, and etc. This thing is an Alberta Clipper as its beginning part of the storm. So what that means is those beasts are very hard to predict their exact track, and because of this evolution of the storm, how it takes that loop, this thing is going to be extremely hard to predict precisely, even a few days out like we are right now. So, stay tuned, stay prepared, and right now I'm just going to be going over the kind of the details of this as best as I can. Again, there are winter storm watches already issued. For the most up-to-date information, listen to your local National Weather Service. Right now, if you're watching this video and you're a first-time viewer, you may not know whether or not you like this channel, but I'm a weather enthusiast, I'm a hobbyist, so that's what I do on this channel. And check out the video, watch this whole one, watch the other ones that I've kind of made about this system, see if you do enjoy it. If you do, consider subscribing and liking. Obviously, don't do that just because I told you so. I'm just reminding you at the beginning of the video, not the end, because I always forget at the end. Alright, let's start talking about this beast. I do want to say, if you have any comments, leave them down below. I will try answering them. Yesterday I didn't answer as many as I'd like. Usually I answer as many as I can, which is most, but yesterday I didn't answer as many, but today I plan on answering a lot. So, okay, we're looking at the National Weather Service map right now, and it is definitely not active so far. We do have a sign of those winter storm watches starting to appear across the northern United States. You can see all the way through North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, and into Iowa and whatnot. And this is going to be expanded, obviously, as the confidence in this system grows. There could, I think, the swath of heaviest snow will do something like this. Right there. I don't know how far south the heavy snow will go. Again, that's kind of the whole question of this. Probably somewhere in, actually, no, you could expand this significantly. Here will be probably the heaviest snowfall. It's a large area, and of course the rain on the southern side of this, and of course the very cold air on the northern side. This thing is extremely impactful. But let's take a look at some of these snowfall amounts and what they're forecasting right now. So let's take a look at Iowa. Again, most of Iowa, especially western areas, are under a winter storm watch, not a warning yet. Notice a snowfall amount 6 to 10, 7 to 10 from a Alberta Clipper, which really this is what this system will be. These are some profound amounts of snow. A very potent one. Definitely not moisture starved. You can see Minnesota right there. Minneapolis could see some snow, again, right on the cusp of seeing a heavier event versus a lighter event. We'll have to wait and see again which track this exactly takes, but still up to 2 to 5 inches of snow possible for these areas. Notice North Dakota as well. A lot of these areas seeing some potentially very heavy snow, and you can see the confidence continues to grow in this. Potential of 6 inches or more. You can see it's 70%. It probably will be 100 for many of these areas by the time we're like a couple of hours from this system occurring. And yeah, I'm jumping around a lot because I have a lot to show you. So let's just go through the system, and let me show you the different models, because there are many different models that show this system. Some show a lot of snow further north or further west or further north and east of kind of what the other model shows, which again they're just all varying, and they differ with what they show. Let's start off with the GFS model, and I want to show you this because this is a good model. The good thing with this storm system and the models is that while there are differences between the models, it's not like in some scenarios where you have one model that shows a snowstorm, one that shows a much weaker snowstorm, and one, say, that doesn't, which that does sometimes happen even less than like 100 hours out. In this case, we have a snowstorm that all models show very similarly, but again, even with the similarities, they still show some slight differences. And let me show you the GFS model. So this thing will come in onto the western United States, because right now this thing hasn't even really hit the United States. It makes its landfall right there. It looks like a measly system because I mean, it really is. It isn't a powerhouse, at least yet. And I noticed that by tomorrow 6 p.m., so this is Thursday 6 p.m., we have a bit of snow, scattered showers across the northeast. We have this giant low pressure that does end up forming into a massive storm, but it doesn't really affect our viewing area. And I do want to show you that, look, this thing, instead of taking a normal track as like an Alberta Clipper, which, if you recall, Alberta Clippers originate in Alberta, but usually much further towards the north. If the map were to be extended, it would be probably somewhere up here, and they usually take a track that's much, much further. I mean, they have a very, very elongated a track, and the thing why I'm trying to show you this is because this thing for an Alberta Clipper is going to be dropping a lot of snow, and usually Clippers, by the time they get into the United States after this long trek, they're already moisture starved. They don't have that much energy. But this one, notice what's weird with this and why there was a sudden westward shift with this system. For example, my area was supposed to get that snow a couple days ago. That's what the models were saying. But now it's shifted because look, this thing moves in. And this is now early Friday or extremely late Thursday. And we have already this system moving in through North Dakota, and it takes basically a beeline and then just a drop towards the south. It doesn't take that long arch or that long path, and again, most Alberta Clippers kind of form way up towards the north, not so far towards the south in the first place. But notice that by Friday during the mid-morning hours too, I should say the wee morning hours of North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota are already seeing that snowfall. Notice that this thing is quick moving, as the fashion with all Alberta Clippers. That's why they get their name. Clipper was a very fast ship that was, common to be used some time ago, and that's why Alberta Clippers kind of get that name, because they stem from Alberta and they're fast. They're like a little clipper. It's a clipper ship, and yes, they are quick. But notice this thing does start off very fast. It has a lot of snowfall potential. It has warm winds from the south, cold winds from the north, so it kind of squeezes out that snowfall potential. And by midday Friday, so again 6 hours later, it's spreading into the Twin Cities, Des Moines, South Dakota, and North Dakota. It's really abating North Dakota at that point. Now it's spreading into Illinois, Iowa by late Friday in the afternoon. Notice we have this monster, colossal nor'easter. It just doesn't really impact the United States. It does slam into Canada, however. But notice that we have this guy right here. And yes, I mean, you can see this thing's quickly developing, and it's quickly exploding into a massive beast. By Saturday, it's already snowing across Iowa, Missouri, Illinois. I should say late Friday into early Saturday. Here again, you can see it gets pretty close to Chicago, cities like Indianapolis, maybe, La Crosse, Wisconsin, right? We'll have to watch whether or not the track shifts towards the east a bit or towards the west. In the most recent runs, there has been a shift slightly towards the east, so we'll have to wait and see. But again, I don't think it will make a huge change in either direction at this point. It's more whether or not a city like Omaha will get heavier snow or not really. Which in this case, you could see they see lows of precip, so they don't. And that may, seem irrelevant if you live across Iowa and you just want me to get to the storm. That will affect you. But, for a city like Omaha or Lincoln, which is right there into eastern Nebraska, this is a world of a difference. If this thing's slightly towards the west, this giant this giant snow storm shifts a bit towards the west. So notice, regardless, by Saturday, early Saturday, it is again moving into Missouri, Kansas City, to Arkansas, right there, Tennessee, Kentucky, kind of the area where Missouri, Arkansas, Tennessee, and Kentucky all meet. We have a ton of heavy snow occurring. Again, this is late Saturday into early Sunday now. This thing stalls out. Notice has a lot of cold air, and it starts picking up moisture from the Gulf of Mexico, and it does so in a major way. It starts strengthening quickly. You can see a lot of rain, and with the most recent scenarios, it seems as if there won't be much snow into, say, the Georgia area or Alabama, unfortunately, for those that did want that. It's going to be more of a rain scenario, most likely for you, but just north to Kentucky, Tennessee, into Mississippi, Arkansas, kind of on the west side of the system. A massive, massive snow event with very heavy snowfall rates. North Carolina, heavy ice, heavy snow, and then converting into more of a rainy mixture for the coastal areas, and a bit of backside snow for, say, like Asheville, areas that are tucked in more towards the mountains. You can see most of Tennessee eventually transitions into snow. And then look, Indiana gets clipped by the first part of the system. This thing sits up here, and then look, it explodes back towards the north into Ohio, Indiana, West Virginia, Virginia, into Pennsylvania, into DC area, kind of a rain snow mixture. And again, look, you can see that the largest cities will be dealing with potentially and most likely rain, very, very heavy rain. So the coastal areas, New York City, Philadelphia, Long Island, Boston, Connecticut, most likely a rainmaker. But just inland, I mean Pittsburgh, right? You could get absolutely clobbered by this monster. New York, the state of New York, Vermont, New Hampshire. Look at how heavy those precip rates are. Truly, almost reaching as high as I usually see these snowfall rates get to. And then notice that after that we see an invasion of cold air. How much snow? Obviously, the snow amounts will be pretty insane, especially for that second wave. But notice, even across Iowa, Minnesota, that is a ton of snow for the first part of an Alberta clipper that hasn't reached any moisture. And look at some of that across Arkansas, Missouri, Kentucky, just gonna get absolutely clobbered by this monster. North Carolina, Virginia, much of West Virginia, Pennsylvania, over a foot potentially across many of these areas. And I would not be surprised, especially in the mountains, to see areas that see 18 to 24 inches. Now, let me just show you the Canadian model. I won't go over through the same process of showing you the storm development. I'll just show you the snowfall footprint. If you know any changes, have you noticed any changes? There is a bit less towards the south. First of all, you can see Tennessee doesn't pick up that much. Neither does Kentucky, right? There's still a massive system. It's just not massive for certain areas. St. Louis gets a decent amount of snow. Still pretty kind of confident with southeastern Missouri, northern Arkansas seeing snow into portions of North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia maybe right there. That's probably a bit overdone. I'm not sure if I agree with this model run too much because of how awkwardly it kind of spaces out some of the snow, but especially towards the northeast up here, I would say that's a decent solution, and it's a decent probability of that occurring. But towards down here in the south, it's a bit iffy how this actually evolves. But notice it is pretty consistent with the GFS on that first half of that storm. And honestly, because of how different the Canadian is with that southern part of that system, I'll just play it out for you. I said I wasn't, but let's see. So there it goes. It races, it slows down, and yeah, so basically the main difference is that there's not as much snow falling. It's just more as rain, but it does intensify and slide back up towards the north like most of the other models, or sorry, most of the GFS ensembles show. Let me show you now the European model. So again, there are winter storm watches already issued for this first half of the system. They do stop it at Iowa, but for Missouri eventually there will be watches issued for much of maybe even to southwestern Illinois, St. Louis area. Notice by the time it gets here, it quickly drops like a rock again towards the Gulf of Mexico area. And notice that the European takes it more further towards the south, you're right, but it doesn't show as much snow into southeastern Missouri. Shows more into Tennessee or Arkansas. So you're watching this video in Missouri or Illinois, and you're expecting winter storm, and the European scenario comes true. You may be like, oh, there was never a winter storm, and there was, right? It's just that it was further towards the south. So it's all a small change could mean a big difference for large areas. You could see St. Louis out of the European scenario doesn't pick up anything from that second wave. While it shows the GFS at least brought in additional snow from that re-strengthening phase. Look how much ice it shows across the Carolinas into Georgia. That could be a gridlock situation. Does show some snow for South Carolina, extreme northeastern Georgia, and North Carolina, Tennessee, but a lot of freezing rain, some sleet, and this thing intensifies very quickly. A lot of areas start off with a thud of very heavy snow, eventually converting to ice and then rain. But notice on the backside, Ohio, Pennsylvania, look right there through Pittsburgh, carrying through a very heavy band of snow. That would be, those pink colors. That is extremely, extremely heavy snowfall. Again, a very heavy, high snowfall amounts from that. Pretty much whatever scenario you look at, it's just whether or not you live in individual cities like St. Louis that you see a bit less or more, or portions in southeastern here. In southeastern Missouri, you see a bit less or more, right? But do notice that all of them show a very significant snowstorm. And let me take this through the whole time frame. And notice, look at that. Pittsburgh, according to this model, would be almost over almost 20 inches of snow, assuming a 10-to-1 ratio, which they could be even higher there. Much of Pennsylvania, Virginia, even into the south and into the northeast. Look how close that rain snow line is to the big cities. We'll have to definitely watch that, especially if this thing, if this takes a dramatic shift towards the east, which I said probably won't, this band of snow, then we could see this, the second half of the system also shift dramatically likely towards the east, which would mean snow for the coastal areas, but not really for Ohio or Kentucky. Now, if this thing shifts still towards the west compared to where this model is currently, then we'll see more snow for Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana, maybe even to Detroit, further towards the west. Just a lot less snow for really the East Coast, probably just mainly rainfall. So there are differences. And let me show you now another model, UK meteorological model. Pretty good one, but you could see that what it does show is that first half of that system really doesn't show much here, but it eventually does show a strengthening with a similar track to actually the European. So you could see it's interesting, right? Similar track, but shows a lot less snow for these areas. Now I could start showing you some of these short-range models which go out to 84 hours, but you can see that they only go out to 84 hours. So what does that mean? Well, it only shows us the first half of the system, and here you can see they do show quite some impressive snowfall amounts. Again, some of these maybe even higher, assuming a Kuchera, meaning a correct snowfall ratio, which you can see that some of these amounts may be close towards a foot. The National Weather Service isn't showing such high amounts. I'm not sure if it's because they don't think the snow will be as light or heavy. Maybe it's just they're just they don't want to issue such high snowfall totals this far out. But let's take a look at this. So let's take a look at North Dakota, right? And let's take a look at the temperature what the snow will be falling at. Where you can see, okay, 14 degrees. Yeah, all right. So yeah, that's not going to be a 10-to-1 snowfall ratio. This is probably a more accurate snowfall amount if that were to occur at 14 degrees. I didn't even know it was going to be that cold. I should have been showing you this ratio all along. You could see, so I mean, a lot of these areas could get even a foot of snow from that first part of the system. And I could show you the Kuchera, assuming the GFS. So again, this one. Again, that's possible, especially with some of those extremely high snowfall amounts, those very cold temperatures that the snow will be falling in. Let's take a look at southwestern Minnesota. Yeah, 24 degrees. That is no way a 10-to-1 scenario, because usually that occurs at around 30 degrees Fahrenheit. So up to 14 inches is a possibility. And assuming that the Kuchera is accurate for the Northeast, yeah, you can see a lot of these amounts could be reaching well over 2 feet across, New York, Pennsylvania, Virginia, even portions of the South. Same thing with the Canadian. Quickly, those amounts do get increased compared, say, to a 10-to-1. You can see, right? A lot less, a lot more. So yeah, this one's probably a bit more accurate. NAM model, another one that goes out to 84 hours. Let's stay focused on Kuchera, since that's most likely what's going to happen. Show a lot of snow from that first half of that system. They only take us out again to around late Saturday, and we do see that all of them show snow across, say, Missouri, right? And Arkansas area, and you may be wondering, okay, why is this important? And this is important because it tells us that models like the United Kingdom model right here that doesn't show any snow for the Missouri area is most likely inaccurate, as the short-range models already are showing, snow. And that's probably a bit more accurate than, say, this one. RAP, a short-range model, a very short-range model, goes out to 51 hours every 6 hours. And you can see it shows that first part of that system. Do note that the short-range models are a lot more further towards the east. And that's why I'm still kind of a bit unsure about the forecast for the Northeast, whether or not it will be coastal areas or not. Because if this scenario were to occur, you can see Des Moines barely picks up on that heavy snow. This axis of snow that the National Weather Service shows right here would be significantly further towards the west. I'm assuming, again, this is an outlier and this won't hold true, but we'll have to see. The trend may be slightly towards the east in the next coming hours, or next few days before this system occurs. And that would obviously transpire into the coastal cities picking up a lot of snow. So this is still a very fluid situation, and I want you guys to understand that, because a lot of people watching this video may be just hearing hype about the storm and whatnot, but for your specific location, this is a very tricky system to precisely forecast, because again, this thing will be occurring. It is a massive system, which is why I'm calling it a massive system without any show of kind of uncertainty, because it's going to occur. It's just a matter of whether or not it's going to be a scenario of this, where the Twin Cities pick up 8 inches, or it's going to be more of the GFS, where the Twin Cities pick up 2 inches, right? Again, at this point, I'll just go with the National Weather Service. If there are any trends in forecast, they're going to be onto it relatively quickly. And, sometimes these systems are nasty, because an Alberta Clipper, this is the thing with Alberta Clippers. If you live across the Midwest, you know this. Further southeast, maybe not as much, because they're not as often into your forecast, but they are extremely hard to predict their exact forecast. So, and especially in a situation where this one's so potent, so heavy, and especially has that second wave directly correlated to its first part of its track. This thing has a lot of it's a risk. It's a big gamble, and when you have a 2-inch possibility in terms of the maximum, that's not a big deal. Oh, this thing will shift a bit to the north or south. It doesn't matter. But if you have a big system like this, kind of depending on a whole track of this first part of the storm, it's a big gamble, and we'll just have to wait and see. As vague as that sounds, I could show you some more high-res models. You could see the NAMs are really more towards inclined with what the National Weather Service is showing, with those very heavy amounts of snow further towards the west. And again, we'll just have to wait and see. I do want to quickly note that precipitation amounts, meaning the rain from this thing, will be extremely heavy wherever it does occur. You could see, even if the coastal areas end up seeing just rain, they could see up to 2 inches of that, which in winter is quite a potent storm that takes to do that. I could show you yet another model. This one is a good model. I like it, but it doesn't go out far out. It's a high res. It goes out to 60 hours, so a bit less than the NAM. Let's take a look at the snowfall. You can see it's a bit more towards the Twin Cities, but still the axis of snow generally in line with, say, what the National Weather Service is showing. So yes, there's a lot of still uncertainty with this little guy. And we'll just have to watch, especially the high-res ones, what they start showing, especially the ones that go out further out. Is there an actual eastern track to this, or eastern trend, westward trend? We'll have to wait and see. But again, for now, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you got a good kind of look at what this system may or may not do. And again, obviously the impacts, I can't go over every single city, right? But for now, this area in the blue, if you're under it, expect some heavy, powdery kind of type snow. It's gonna be a potent one you haven't seen in a while. Many of these locations, especially this year, haven't seen any snow almost. For the south, this could either be a massive rainmaker, an ice maker, or a snowstorm. So just stay tuned. The forecast models may be confusing, so if you're not into that and you're just watching this because it may affect your area, just stay tuned to the National Weather Service, and they're definitely mentioning this thing. You can see that weekend winter storm, because this thing could be a monster for these areas, right? And we'll have to see. Yeah, you can see considerable uncertainty makes sharing specific possibilities difficult. I mean, they literally took the words out of my mouth. So exactly, just be prepared. This thing is going to be coming. It's just a matter of when, where, how much snow, rain, whatever. These areas further towards, away from the current time frame, because they're going to be later seeing the system. They're just showing, not really talking about it yet because it's still a bit too far out for them. But I think even in Pennsylvania, though, these areas are starting to mention that, yeah, things could get pretty nasty with this. And yeah, you could see snowstorm possible Sunday night, and this thing could be massive. And you can see it's far too early to discuss specific snowfall amounts. And you can see it's 4 days, so 4 days may not seem like a lot, but you can see they put the emphasis that it's way too far out to start discussing snowfall totals for those areas. For these areas, not so much. And that's why, again, I know I keep reiterating the same thing, but it matters, this track, because if it's just a bit further towards the east, I mean, it's like a parabola, right? It starts over here. It's gonna probably take a track, not probably, but I'm just drawing it out, say, right, hypothetically, and assuming that it has the same equation of that forms this parabola. If it's a bit further towards what am I trying to say? Towards the east, then this thing won't go as far to the south. It can, but most likely with what the weather models show is that every model that shows it further towards the east brings it closer. Ignore that. Brings it closer towards. Brings it closer off the shore. So the further east, so it's track like this would be like this. This would be like this like that, right? Obviously, it's not going to end up going here, but it's, even like this difference right here, which some models are most definitely showing, could mean the difference between a snow day or not for, say, the coastal cities. So, yes, we'll have to wait and see. A lot of details coming in still, and for now, that's all I have for you. Thank you, guys. See ya.